Sorry. Yes, guys. My name is Jock. For those of you that don't know me, I'm an Eendrag. I am sorry. Just give me. I'm second year now. I'm gonna try and do this in. Well, I'm gonna do this in just one take. I've done it like 5 different takes already, and just firstly I don't know how to edit videos, so I think that's my first problem, and secondly, it's just taking too long. So yes, here we go. So Martin asked me to share just around my testimony a bit, and then also he said if there's anything that I want to else that I want to share, I can go for it. So actually, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I actually want to look at the life of David. So yeah, Jock in Stellenbosch, grew up in Stellenbosch. I went to Porus High School, and growing up, yeah, let's just get right into growing up. I would say my family situation wasn't ideal. Me and my brother fought a lot with my mother. To a point when I was 14, we decided the best would be if me and my brother go to a hostel, just to give us a little bit of space. You know, my dad thought maybe that would smooth stuff out or whatever. It just got worse, so my parents got divorced, and I would say from I was in church when I was younger, but you know how it is. You go to church, but like you don't really have a relationship, or you don't really you don't really experience God. And then so when I was about 14, we moved out, and then it just went downhill. So it was basically just it was a 14-year-old kid. I was in a hostel, but our home was right next to school, so it was a 14-year-old kid just doing whatever he wants. No, like I had all the freedom that I wanted. And like I said, I didn't know God, so I just went the way of the world. And I'll I'll be honest, I did everything. Like I drank, I smoked, I did drugs. Never really heavy into the drugs. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm Afrikaans. I feel like English people are more, Anyway, yeah. So did a bit of drugs, not really a lot. I got a girlfriend, slept with my girlfriend. No, the whole time I had these, like, I had a void, and like I knew that, but I was like, I just have a void because I don't have this yet, or I looked at someone like I don't have that yet, and I sort of tried to fill the void with those things the whole time, and because it just temporarily filled me, I kept on needing more, and I kept on like needing different ways. So when I was my grade 8 year, when I was 14, drinking and smoking and those stuff, that was fun. That's all that I needed. And then by the end of that year, that wasn't. Now the gap was still there, and I'm doing this stuff, so I needed more. So thought I needed a girlfriend. Got a girlfriend. Filled the void great for about 2 months, and then again the void was still there. Luckily, when I was about 16 years of age, at the beginning of my grade 10 year, one of my friends actually invited me to church, and I got saved. And from there on, I slowly started pulling my life back together, and slowly started following God. And I'll be honest, I don't know where I would have been if that friend didn't invite me to church. I actually, sort of a cool story is, I almost failed, I think, my grade 8 year, and I was getting about like 50% for maths and around there for the rest of my subjects. And I'm actually studying actual science at the moment. Well, I'm trying to. So it's a process. I'm actually studying actual science at the moment, which you obviously know is a lot of maths. So just like praise to God how he sort of turned my life around. Yeah, so that's basically me. That's my story summed up in short. I want to get more into the life of David, and the reason that I chose to look at the life of David is it actually says in the Bible, God actually says in the Bible, that David was a man after God's own heart. And I thought, when I first read this, I thought, wow, like this is the best example almost, except for Jesus, like, because we all are looking for, like, we all want to know how to get closer to God, how to be more Christ-like, and sometimes it could feel with Jesus, it could sort of feel like, oh, it's Jesus, he was perfect, like we're never going to be that. But David was just an ordinary, he was actually a shepherd who God used. And so I just decided, like, I'm going to look at the life of David a bit. And the first thing that I got from his life is that, just for those of you that don't know David, this is his life in short, is he was just a normal shepherd. He was the youngest of like 5 brothers. And then one day a prophet comes and he says, hey, look, you're going to be Israel's next king. He goes on a little bit later, he defeats the giant David and Goliath. I'm guessing most of you have heard about that. He defeats the giant. He goes and lives with the king. The king gets jealous of him, tries to kill him. He lives on the run for a long while. After that, he gets back and like the king dies and he becomes king eventually. That's very, very summarized. If you want to find more about him, go read Samuel. But anyway, so the first thing that I got from David's life is that he didn't let his failures define him. See, just a couple of David's failures is, first one is he committed adultery. So David was, if you don't know the story about David and Bathsheba, David was one evening walking on his roof. I don't know why, just at the evening taking a stroll on your roof, and he saw a woman bathing. Now, again, I don't know if people used to bathe on the roofs or that was a thing. Seemed quite stupid to me, because if you knew people walking around on the roof, like they're gonna, I don't know. But then anyway, so maybe that's why he went on his roof. David was walking on the roof and he saw this woman bathing, and well, look, we're all guys, it's we can't judge David too hardly here. So David tells his men to go over and go fetch her, or invite her over. And she comes over and he sleeps with her and she gets pregnant. But the thing is, she had a husband. So there's the first thing, that David committed adultery. Then secondly, now David's like, oh no, and he invites the husband's away at war, and he invites the husband, like he says, come back. And he eats with the husband, and he says to the husband, you know what, tonight go home, go sleep with your wife, like you've done such amazing things. And the husband actually says, you know what, I won't go home, I won't go sleep with my wife until the war's over. Now David just wanted to go sleep with his wife, because obviously then she's pregnant, then he'll think he's his child, and David would be in the clear. So he doesn't go home, and David goes plan B, and he sends him back to the army, and he actually tells his commander, look, put her husband in the front lines, and then when the war's at like its fiercest, pull the troops back and leave him there on his own, so that the enemies can kill him. So they do it. Long story short, the husband gets killed, and David basically commits murder. Then thirdly is he took a census. So in the Old Testament, God told the Israelites, don't take a census, because all about in those times your army was your strength, your everything. So he wanted them to trust, like God wanted them to trust in him and not in the size of their army. But David went and he took a census in anyway. And I think for a long time for me, I sort of let my failures define me. So I was so afraid, especially when I got into church and everything, I was so afraid that people would have known what I've done, or known, where I've been, or known how messy my family situation looked, that I kept it hidden. And it's sort of my failures, or what had happened to me, defined me, that I took that as part of my identity. And I think one of the best examples of someone not letting their failures define them is David. Because see, just imagine David went and look at what I've done, look at all the I've committed adultery. Basically, I've murdered someone for a mistake that he made, and he was super disobedient to God. What actually happened is that but when he took a census, God actually brought a plague which killed a lot of people. So he, in effect, killed more people. But one thing about David is every time he made one of these mistakes, he went to God, he repented, and then he because when you repent, God forgives you. He walked in that forgiveness, and actually didn't let those failures define him, or didn't let those failures hold him back. Because see, what happens is the enemy tries is after we've repented, we know like God has forgiven us, but he tries to play on our minds like, hey, you know what, God hasn't really forgiven you, or hey, what, you know what, yeah, I might, but the thing's still there, you still did it. But actually, when you go to God and you ask forgiveness, you know what, it is wiped clean, it's gone. So first thing, don't let your failures define you. Secondly, is that he didn't let fear. He didn't let fear stop him from what God called him to. So you're asking this guy's like, why would David be fearful? Firstly, he would be fearful that the people didn't think he's good enough. So when the prophet came to his house and because God told the prophet Samuel, hey, go to this man's house, Jesse is his name, and one of his sons is going to be our next king. And Jesse brought all of his sons out except David. He left David out to think, you know, it's definitely not David. Samuel looked through everyone and said, you know what, do you have more sons? This is not none of them are going to be king. He went and he said, you know what, I have one more, like the youngest one that's just a shepherd. And Samuel said, go get him. He got him. Samuel said, you know, this is the one that's going to be king. And just think what we've played on David's, like what could have played on his mind is, you know what, like, how's the other people going to think I'm good enough? Even my own father don't think that I can be king, because he didn't even consider David. Secondly is that he could be fearful of Saul. So Saul was the king at that time, and Saul for long tried to kill him. And just think, David could easily have been like, you know what, I'm just a normal guy. This is the king trying to kill me. I'm just gonna surrender. I'm gonna give up. I don't want to be king one day. And thirdly is he could be fearful of what God called him into. See, like I said, David was just a normal shepherd boy, and God called him to be king. Just imagine you're the youngest in your family. No one in your family thinks you'll be able to, like the people that are closest, you don't even think you'll be able to do it. Some guy shows up at your door, you out watching the sheep, he comes to tell you, hey, you're going to be the next king of Israel. So I remember a while after I got saved, and I sort of got to the point where I started wanting to tell other people about Jesus and, you know, sharing his word. And again, I was afraid if people knew what I'd done, or people knew how messy my life was at that moment, that they would either judge me, or they would say, you know what, I'm not gonna listen to this person. And I almost felt like that I wasn't, you know, good enough to share the word with other people. And I mean, David could have felt like that as well. Like he could have felt, you know what, again, my family didn't think I was good enough. I'm just a shepherd. How could I be the king of Israel? When David went and fought Goliath, he could also have thought, you know what, like no one thought he would be able to do it. But see, David didn't let the fear stop him from doing what God wanted him to do. Then thirdly is and I think this is one of the most important ones, is David didn't let his accomplishments define him. And just a couple of David's accomplishments. Firstly, I would say he accomplished a lot more than he failed. And the first one is he killed Goliath. So if you don't know the story, what happened is David was still just a shepherd, and he went out to take some food for his brothers. They were actually fighting in a war, and there was this giant Goliath that was just cursing God, and he was like bad-mouthing all the Israelites. And David actually went out with just a kitty, I think it's a sling in English, and a couple of rocks, and he went and killed, sorry, very low, and he went and killed this giant. So it would have been so easy for him just to take that on himself and say, look how great I am. And secondly, he won a lot of battles. So that actually, it says in the Bible that the people in the streets were singing, Saul has killed his thousands. Saul, again, was the king at that time, and David has killed his tens of thousands. So what they basically said is that David was better than Saul. And I just think he was just, again, a shepherd boy, and they're saying, hey, you're greater than the king. And thirdly, he eventually became king of Israel. And I think we a lot of times can take these accomplishments that we achieve, For instance, if you get good marks on a test, or if you play good rugby, or you play good whatever, we can take these accomplishments on ourselves and sort of become prideful, thinking that this is all because we're so great, all because of our ability or whatever, where it is actually all from God. And that's something that David knew, is that every time David accomplished something, he immediately went to God, and he gave all the glory to God. And he actually refers to himself in Psalms a lot as a servant. And he says, you know what, God, I'm just a servant. You are the one that makes this all happen. I'm actually nothing without you. And I think when we start living a life that, or when we start honoring God with everything, and we start giving the glory to God everything, that's when we actually have a heart after God's own heart. So 3 things from David's life is, he didn't let his failures define him. He didn't let fear stop him from what God called him to. And lastly, he didn't let his accomplishments define him. I hope this encouraged you guys, and yeah, have a good lockdown.